Hello guys, and today I'm going to try and explain briefly to people who probably hadn't got a clue what it was about why Boris Johnson, our Prime Minister, was talking about Peppa Pig. Now, it's made worldwide news from what I can understand that people have been showing clips abroad of our Prime Minister talking about Peppa Pig to some businessmen, laughing at him and pretty much saying, what a complete idiot. Why is the Prime Minister talking to boring, suit-type businessmen at a meeting of businessmen at an organisation even that consists entirely of businessmen called the CBI? Talking about Peppa Pig. Well, I'm going to explain what I think it was about, okay? But for many foreigners, they wouldn't have understood it because they wouldn't have understood the nuances of the BBC, which probably they didn't even take in consideration of the fact he mentioned the BBC or anything else. So I'm going to explain. For those people who missed it, by the way, you can see it in the link to in the description below. I was going to put it in the actual video, but because I know YouTube like to be really stupid over copyright and things like that, I've decided to not put it in, instead link it. So if you haven't a clue what I'm talking about, look at the links below where our Prime Minister talked about going to Peppa Pig World. Now, for those who haven't got a clue, Peppa Pig is in many ways like Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, that sort of thing. But it's a British creation, okay? So Peppa Pig is basically a children's cartoon, sort of a modern version of Mickey Mouse, sort of. I mean, I haven't followed the storylines, I haven't followed the stories, but apparently it's become a huge international success and translated into many different languages and sold apparently all over the world. It's apparently a huge favourite with children. Okay, now I'm not in the modern world. I've not watched. I just had watched a little bit out of curiosity to find what the fuss was about when I heard about this. But you know, because I'm an adult and I don't have any children, I don't watch children's cartoons, to be completely honest. Okay, you probably wouldn't surprise you, especially as these are aimed at preschool children. Okay, and so they're aimed at very young children, I believe. Right, or babies, I don't know, I mean, it's not my area, okay? So, basically, there have been these theme parks which have been created in Britain, China and America, called Peppa Pig World, okay? And it's like a sort of Peppa Pig version of Disneyland, if you like. Apart from it's probably not as good as Disneyland, probably, because it probably doesn't have as much money, okay, as Disney has, you know. And I'm talking about Disneyland, in America. I've never been there, but you know, apparently it's very good. Okay, and so there's Peppa Pig World, okay, and our Prime Minister said he went there recently. Now, he probably may have gone there. I don't know how he got there. I'm baffled as to why, but maybe there's some business reason for it. It may also be private. I know that he's recently had, his current wife is currently having had a baby. I think they were having a baby before he married her. I can't remember the details, so it's rather complicated because he had one wife when he became Prime Minister, although he was divorcing her, and then he apparently divorced her and then married another wife who he apparently got pregnant. I forget this story. Anyway, it's irrelevant to this. So you want to know, well, what's all this Peppa Pig stuff about? Well, I'm going to explain. What he explained, and this was a bit many people missed, okay, when it was explained internationally, was originally this children's cartoon character called Peppa Pig was originally apparently I say apparently because I'm only going by what I can find out, was apparently turned down by the BBC. From what I can understand, the creator said that the BBC were originally interested in it, but they struggled to find somewhere to put it in their schedules. And then after a while, they just decided they weren't interested at all, apparently. Now, that's according to the creators from what I can find, okay? I've not heard the BBC's version of events, but I haven't heard the BBC putting out a statement flatly denying this, okay? So I'm going to assume that this is the case. And sometimes that happens in broadcasting, you know, people go to one broadcaster, they haven't got the schedule for it, they go to somebody else. But that wasn't the point Boris was trying to make. What Boris was trying to make, because he probably didn't fully understand the entire story, and he just heard bits of it, I believe, was that BBC originally turned it down, and it was taken on instead by a rival broadcaster called Channel 5 in Britain. Okay, now, what's the difference between the BBC and Channel 5? Now, Channel 5 is one of the main channels in Britain, okay? Before the whole country went digital and we had old-fashioned analogue television where you had very few channels, you had 5 channels that could come from an aerial, and that was the most you could have. Using analog technology, you know, the old-fashioned way, the way things were broadcast pretty much in the 70s, if you like. There was only 5 channels, and Channel 5 was the last one of the main channels to come on. Okay, and they're still on, available today. A true story, but I'm going to deviate completely on this, so bear with me with this. One of the problems that they had was when Channel 5 came along, was that there wasn't enough space on the wave bands to actually fit Channel 5. So believe it or not, they made the decision to broadcast Channel 5 where video recorders normally transmitted video signals to the television. So in order to do this, they said that Channel 5 had to pay for this. They had to go around virtually everybody's house in the country and manually put a screwdriver in the back of other people's video recorders and then tune in other people's video recorders for them, so that their video recorders would no longer transmit on this particular, I think it's roughly 35 UHF channel, and would instead have to be set to a different channel and pay for whatever it costs to visit people and tune in their video recorders to a different channel, and pay for them to also tune other people's televisions in so that they could then access the video from their TV. And Channel 5 were told, you must do this, it doesn't matter what it costs, that's your problem, you'll just have to pay for it. So that's what happened. So many years ago when this happened, I wasn't at home. I probably could have done it, but I believe someone came around our own house when I wasn't here, and with my mum's permission, and they basically, when we had, you know, an old video recorder, tuned in the video recorder to a television, you know, so that it could pick it up. If you didn't do that and you just left it, the two would clash. So many years later, people started using SCART for everything to do with video recorders, but at the time a lot of people actually had an aerial wire coming out of the video into the television, back of the television, and picked up Channel 5 via an aerial wire that transmitted a signal from a video to the telly, with the television thinking it was a television channel even though it was really a video. But anyway, that's nothing to do with any of this. So what's this got to do with Peppa Pig? Anyway, the point Boris was trying to make was that the BBC, which is generally a state broadcaster, wasn't interested and didn't see the potential of Peppa Pig in the same way that a private broadcaster did. He was trying to make a point which few understood about the difference between state-run organisations like the BBC, and although it's complicated, and an entirely private company like Channel 5. And when I said state-run TV, that's the easiest way of explaining it to people. It's not strictly true. It does have independence from the government and will even criticise the government. But it's the easiest way I can explain it to people, because most of the BBC over here is funded out of a taxation license called the television license, okay? And in the past, if you had a television, unless you had an exceptional reason, you needed to have a TV license, which you had to pay for every year, and that would pay for the BBC and some other things. Nowadays, they've changed the rules slightly, but in simple terms, if you want to switch on a television and see programs immediately, just like you switch on and you just change channels and you see lots of programs, you just change channels, see another program. If you want to watch television like that in very simple terms, the way people watched it years ago, apart from it's now digital, you need a TV license, okay, by law. And that is used to fund the BBC and some of the things like S4C, which you don't need to know about if you're a foreigner, okay? And it's controversial at the moment because a lot of people say, well, why should I pay for the BBC if I don't even watch it? And for example, even if you watched like MTV all day, you never watched a single BBC channel, and all you watched was MTV or movie channels all day, and you watched them as they were broadcast live. You have to have a TV license if you watch, like, I don't know, Film 4 or, MTV or whatever. And people think, well, why should I need that if I never watch the BBC? But it's the law, and it's controversial, and that's another matter. So what Boris was actually trying to say was that government and communism bad, private industry good. I think he was trying to say that because he was at an audience full of businessmen, okay? And he was trying to highlight how often private enterprise will see opportunities that state organisations won't. For example, in the past under the Soviet Union, for example, they did actually design a home computer for people. But the view at the time was, okay, you Soviet comrades now have a home computer. Why would you need another one? Why would you need a different type of one? I mean, you've already got one. Surely that's good enough for you, isn't it? Why do you need a different one? Why do you need a better one? What's the point? Is it not good enough for you? You should be grateful you've got one at all. And that was the kind of Soviet mentality. Be grateful you've got something that does something like this at all. It never came, the idea of somebody might want something better never really sort of fitted in with the Soviet mindset of you should be grateful you've got one at all, and that everybody could have one in theory, And so, whereas the private enterprise model was always along the lines of the public may want something that they haven't got already, and that maybe somebody else can do something better, and why not give it a try? And of course, it was also at the moment, the TV tax is unpopular, but for various reasons it cannot be changed until 2027. But in the meantime, they're going to be negotiating what happens after then. And some people think the government should just scrap the BBC altogether, scrap the licence, and all sorts of other things. And many people think that the BBC has lost its way, and that once upon a time the BBC had probably the best programmes in Britain. Okay, it probably produced the best programmes in Britain. It was probably undoubtedly the best broadcaster in Britain. Even private companies at the time admitted openly on television that the BBC was better than their own companies, and they'd openly admit it. Amazing, but true. But not anymore. The BBC is now seen as generally rubbish. Very few people like programmes on the BBC. Very few people like programmes made by the BBC. Even something like Doctor Who has been criticised for being too politically correct, or, you know, just not as entertaining as it was. And so much so that the BBC have actually, although they've tried to, you know, provide some sort of diplomatic way of saying this, and try to hide the real truth by being diplomatic, they've in real terms fired the main person in charge of Doctor Who. They fired the woman who plays Doctor Who, and they're going to bring back somebody who the whole Doctor Who universe of fans love to be in charge of it again. And they brought him back specially after he'd left for several years, because he was seen as the person who brought it all back again in roughly the 2000s, and he was seen as the best Doctor Who, you know, showrunner and writer of modern times. And so the BBC begged him to come back, and he has. So, not for the current year, because they're still showing what they've already done, but for the future work that hasn't yet been made, he will be in charge of that. Partly due to public outcry over how it's gone. But the BBC have tried to be diplomatic about the departure of the current actress who plays Doctor Who, and the man in charge of it at the moment, you know, being basically sidelined and pushed out. They've tried to be diplomatic about it, and they've made up some excuse, but in reality, I'm pretty sure that's what happened. So at the moment, the BBC's lost its way. So it's basically Boris's way of saying the BBC's gone down the pan. You know, it's nowhere near as good as it used to be. They turned down a golden opportunity to have a product that could be popular worldwide, could have made billions for the BBC, could have drastically reduced the BBC licence fee for people, because if the BBC made a fortune out of this, then by selling it worldwide, then it could have reduced the tax that people have to pay the BBC. They sort of turned down, you know, almost like a gold, you know, necklace or something, and a private industry who weren't so bureaucratic, perhaps weren't so stuffy, who think in terms of the bottom line and are willing to take more risks than perhaps the BBC were willing to do for once, saw an opportunity that the BBC didn't fully appreciate and basically took it, and made a lot of money out of it, and it's also become a worldwide success. Okay, so it's really about communism versus capitalism, and because he was at a business meeting full of capitalists, he wanted to praise the capitalist Channel 5 and criticise the practically communist BBC. But the rest of the world just didn't get it. So if you hadn't got a clue what it was about criticising the BBC in general for being probably not as relevant or useful as it used to be, and also criticising the BBC for being perhaps too communistic. So there you go, guys. If you hadn't got a clue what Boris's Peppa Pig comments were about, now you probably have an idea. As I said, I have linked below to the parts where first I've linked to a clip which concentrates on the Peppa Pig part of his speech, and then I've also provided a link to his entire speech, which was about several other things as well as Peppa Pig. Okay, so thanks for watching, guys. Bye.